New Year's Day, 1978. At Bombay's Sahar International Airport, 213 people boarded Air India flight 171 to Dubai. Their aircraft was the Emperor Ashoka, a Boeing 747, the celebrated Queen of the Skies, and a symbol of national pride. In command was Captain Madan Lal Kukar, a veteran with nearly 18,000 flying hours, leading a highly competent crew. At 8:12 p.m, the jet thundered down the runway and lifted into the night sky. The initial climb was flawless. As the lights of Bombay receded, the aircraft banked left over the Arabian Sea exactly as planned. But just 101 seconds after takeoff, a critical instrument failed. The captain's attitude director indicator, or ADI. This artificial horizon is vital for flying at night over a featureless sea. Captain Kukar's ADI froze, falsely showing a slight right bank. In reality, the plane was banking left, a fact correctly displayed on the co-pilots and standby instruments. A fatal misinterpretation followed. Trusting his faulty instrument, Captain Kukar tried to correct the non-existent right turn by banking further left. The first officer is heard on the recorder asking, "What's happening?" But with no visual horizon, the captain was suffering from profound spatial disorientation. The gentle bank steepened into an irreversible spiral. The Queen of the Skies was now in a terrifying death dive. The 747 struck the Arabian Sea just 3 kilometers from the coast. The impact was catastrophic, disintegrating the aircraft and killing all 213 people on board. A stunned nation asked how a state-of-the-art airliner with an expert crew could simply fall from the sky. Sabotage was initially suspected but quickly ruled out. The answers lay on the seabed, inside the aircraft's 2 black boxes. They were the only witnesses to the final moments aboard the Emperor Ashoka. This is the story of what they revealed, a chilling account of how a small mechanical failure and a trick of human perception led to one of aviation's most haunting disasters. Flight 171 was bound for Dubai. The aircraft, a Boeing 747, 200 called Emperor Ashoka. Passengers and crew settled in, unaware of the danger lurking in the left engine. Just after takeoff, one of the engines caught fire mid-air. Pilots attempted an emergency return to Mumbai, but within minutes the aircraft lost control and crashed near Bandra, killing all 213 people on board. Amidst the desolate landscape of the crash site, the investigation commenced its most critical phase, the retrieval of the aircraft's 2 black boxes. These devices, the flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, are engineered to withstand unimaginable forces. After a painstaking search, both units were located and transported to Air Accident Investigation Laboratories. Within their protected memory, banks lay the final, silent testimony of the flight, a precise second-by-second account of the aircraft's performance and the harrowing final words of the crew. Technicians meticulously downloaded the precious data, synchronizing the 2 streams of information to create a complete timeline of the disaster. The flight data recorder's parameters painted an unambiguous picture. Suddenly, readings for engine number 3 showed a catastrophic spike in temperature and vibration, followed by a complete loss of power, all within a fraction of a second. Simultaneously, the cockpit voice recorder captured a deafening bang, the unmistakable sound of an uncontained engine failure. The data was unequivocal. The chain of events began with the violent disintegration of one of its powerful Pratt & Whitney engines. An uncontained failure is an aviator's nightmare. High-energy fragments of the engine's turbine burst through the protective cowling like shrapnel. A 3D reconstruction showed these projectiles tearing through the wing, instantly severing critical hydraulic lines, the lifeblood of the aircraft's flight controls. The CVR recorded the crew's disciplined response, their voices strained as they worked the emergency checklist. But this was no ordinary fire. Fed by fuel from severed lines, the blaze grew with terrifying speed, melting through the wing structure. The pilots, now fighting a losing battle with unresponsive controls, were wrestling with a mortally wounded giant. The evidence was irrefutable. The flight crew faced an impossible situation, a cascade of failures that no amount of training could overcome. The investigation could now definitively state this was not a case of pilot error. The crew were heroes who fought to the very end. The focus of the inquiry shifted. The question was no longer happened, but why did a meticulously maintained engine on a flagship Boeing 747 fail so devastatingly? Investigators from Boeing and Pratt and Whitney joined the team, poring over metallurgical reports and service records. The answer, they suspected, lay deep within the metal itself, a hidden flaw that could endanger the entire global 747 fleet. The news of Flight 171's demise sent a profound shockwave not just through India, but across the entire global aviation community. For a nation that viewed Air India as a symbol of national pride and progress, the loss of its flagship Boeing 747 was a devastating blow. The Queen of the Skies, a machine synonymous with reliability and grace, had been tragically vanquished. In airports and airline headquarters from London to New York, the question was immediate and urgent. How could this have happened? The incident shattered the growing sense of security in modern air travel, a stark reminder of the unforgiving physics that govern flight. In the heart-wrenching days that followed, public grief coalesced into a desperate, unified demand for answers. The families of the passengers and crew, thrust into an unimaginable nightmare, gathered at airports and government offices, their faces etched with sorrow and a growing frustration. They weren't just seeking closure, they were seeking accountability. They needed to understand the chain of events that led to the loss of their loved ones. However, their quest for truth was immediately hampered by the technological constraints of the era. The flight data and cockpit voice recorders were recovered, but the information they contained was limited. They could provide a timeline of the aircraft's final frantic moments, but they couldn't reveal the microscopic flaw that set the disaster in motion. The deeper analysis would be a painstaking process of physical reconstruction and deduction. The investigation became a monumental international effort. Investigators sifted through acres of debris, piecing together the shattered fuselage like a grim, three-dimensional puzzle. The focus quickly narrowed to the number 2 engine. Analysis of the turbine blades and engine casing revealed the horrifying truth. A catastrophic, uncontained engine failure. A tiny fatigue crack, likely invisible to the naked eye and missed during routine maintenance, had propagated under immense stress, causing a turbine disc to disintegrate. The shrapnel, exiting the engine at supersonic speeds, severed critical fuel and hydraulic lines, sparking an uncontrollable fire. In response, safety boards worldwide issued an urgent call to action. It was a watershed moment. Existing engine inspection protocols, which relied heavily on visual checks, were deemed tragically inadequate. The board's recommendations were sweeping and transformative. They mandated the widespread adoption of new, more sophisticated, non-destructive testing methods such as ultrasonic and eddy current inspections capable of detecting subsurface flaws before they could become critical. But the legacy of Flight 171 extended far beyond engine maintenance. The ferocity of the post-failure fire became a crucial, albeit horrific, case study. Investigators noted how quickly the fire had spread and the toxic smoke had filled the cabin. This led to a complete re-evaluation of aircraft interior materials, developing new stringent standards for fire resistance and low smoke emission properties. Furthermore, the incident highlighted the critical need for enhanced crew training in fighting in-flight fires. The lessons learned from the ashes of Flight 171 were written into the very fabric of the next generation of airliners, creating a legacy of safety that continues to protect passengers to this day.